All right. Thanks for joining me today, guys. We are going to be looking at the ProLine Zapier app and how to connect ProLine to a variety of different softwares through Zapier. Let me share my screen here. I changed up Zoom on me. Things different. All right. So this is our demo account for ProLine. So we're gonna use this today for playing around. We have our Zapier account here with this little test folder we got going on. So we're gonna be playing around in here. And then I also have our website pulled up, which is on WordPress and Elementor, so that we can kind of play around with connecting some contact forms via Zapier. So the first step to connecting ProLine to Zapier for anything is going to be to connect your ProLine account to our Zapier app. You can do this a variety of different ways. One thing you can do is just start creating a new Zap. I love this new feature that Zapier just added with the AI. It actually worked. I've been testing it. It works extraordinarily well. You can put in very complex workflows, and it can build out some really cool Zaps automatically, including ProLine. So you can literally say things like, when this happens in ProLine, do this, and it will actually create a Zap for you from scratch, which is really cool. But we won't use that today, just because I want to be a little more particular. So we'll go to ProLine. And because I'm the developer, it shows all our older versions, but you're just going to go to the one version that's going to pop up. So we have ProLine here. We're going to choose. We have a lot of different events that can be used to trigger automations from ProLine into Zapier. Contacts being edited, events being edited, projects being edited. We have this thing called the Zapier trigger, which we'll go over, and then also communication activity like a text message coming through or something like that. So we're just going to choose project created or updated. This is the most common trigger that's most people are probably going to use, because this is the trigger you're going to use to identify things like when a project changes a stage, which is most people, that's probably the most common trigger out of ProLine that people are going to want to use. So project creator or updated, and then we're going to choose an account. And instead of choosing any of these other accounts that we have here, we're going to connect a new account. And we connect to Zapier using an API key. And you can actually just click this link right here to open up the API page here. Now, before anyone gets any smart ideas, I will be changing this API key after the end of this call. So feel free to copy away. But we're going to, let me pull back up that little window. I don't know, is this window visible to you guys with the API token? Little window? Let me see. I might need to share my screen differently. Okay, yeah, I think it was only sharing the one window. So now you guys should be able to see the pop-up that comes up. So all we gotta do is click on this API key to copy it. And then we're going to be, where did I go? I'm going to pull that back up. We're going to paste that API key in. Yes, continue with ProLine. And it's now going to connect Zapier to your ProLine account. And so now we have this ProLine Power Roofing, which is the name of our demo account. And that account is now connected. We have, for these triggers, and this is the same for the contact trigger as well. Pretty much all of them have this trigger on value, so you can tell ProLine whether you want to trigger off of only updated projects, only newly created projects, or all projects. So we have that. So that's main idea here was to kind of show how to connect ProLine to Zapier. Now let's kind of look at some of the different applications here. So we'll kind of keep working with this app we have here. If a project is created or updated, we'll probably leave this as created or updated here. And what we could do is then maybe an example of what we could do would be a filter. And we could say if Need to test this real quick. If stage exactly matches, and we'll just use what came through, creating quote, or if stage exactly matches appointment schedules. Now that's going to stop any trigger from continuing to run that doesn't match one of those two. And these stages, again, they correspond to these areas here. So as you're moving projects between these areas, you're moving projects between stages. And so this would filter that. And then you could put a trigger for just about anything here. Maybe an example might be you have a MailChimp account and you want to make sure that the email associated with this project goes into MailChimp at a certain stage of your ProLine account. So if it matches one of these stages, then you could choose a add update subscriber, and you could create a subscriber in MailChimp. So this is just sort of an example of how to utilize something like this. Another sort of common use case for these triggers would be like off of communication activity. If you wanted to make sure communication activity inside of ProLine gets logged somewhere else outside of ProLine, you could trigger off of like a new text message or a new email. And you can actually filter that here, all communication or just messages or just calls or just email opens. And you can filter that there. Another little trigger I kind of want to go over that's kind of cool is these Zapier trigger steps. These actually live inside of our campaigns. So you can create a campaign, for example, inside of maybe a job update campaign. So you can say job complete, and this can be attached to like a paid and closed stage. You can say when a project goes to paid and close, run the job complete state or campaign. And then you can add a Zapier trigger step, Zapier trigger in here. If we want to send some extra information, we can. Like if we wanted to send a good use case for this is maybe you want to connect ProLine to a direct mail service. We integrate directly with Dope 360, but maybe you have a different service or a handwritten note service you want to use. You could actually put in a custom message that uses these ProLine variables into this and send it to Zapier with this trigger. So we're just going to save this. And now that we've saved this on this campaign, we can go into Zapier with the Zapier trigger step, and we're going to be able to see that step pop up. And I can use it as a trigger, which means anytime that trigger runs in this campaign, this Zapier will run. So it's really, this is a way to, like with this other approach, we're sort of filtering, but this trigger step is going to run every time a project gets updated, and then it's going to have to filter, which will burn up a lot of Zapier credits. With this Zapier trigger step, you can put this into a specific campaign in your ProLine account, and that makes your Zapiers more efficient because it's only going to trigger when this campaign runs and when that step runs. Now let's kind of talk about the other way, which is probably the most common use of our Zapier, is pushing content into ProLine. Oh, Chris just joined us, so I'm gonna let him in. All right. Okay, so the other side of this is bringing in new leads or content into your ProLine account. So let's do we'll use an example here. So a really common example is Elementor has Elementor forms. A lot of people's websites are built with Elementor. Unfortunately, there is not a way to fully customize the parameters that the webhook feature inside of Elementor form uses. They are locked to what's displayed here in the form. So like whatever is displayed here as the labels. And because of that, it's not possible for us to directly integrate Elementor forms with ProLine. You have to use Zapier. So we're going to use Zapier to connect this Elementor form into this ProLine account. So we can create a new Zap and we're going to use the Zap webhook feature. We're going to catch a hook. So we'll copy this webhook from Zapier, and we're going to go into our website here and add it as a webhook on this form. Okay, so now that is it's on that form. And then we can actually, we'll preview this page. I'll fill out this form. And we'll send that, and that will now show up when we test this trigger. So that now has come through into Zapier. And now we can proceed to add a step here for ProLine. And we're going to do create update project. So specifically, if you're trying to push new leads from any lead source, whether it be from your website or instead of a webhooks thing, you could have a Facebook ads form here. That's another common use case would be a Facebook ads form or lead. The lead forms that are on Facebook, feeding that into Zapier through and into ProLine. You always want to use this create or update project in ProLine step. We do have the ability to use like create or update contacts, so that is kind of a point of confusion. But if you're trying to add a full lead into ProLine, you want to make sure to be adding a project and a contact. And this create or update project allows you to add both at the same time. Whereas if you choose the create or update contact, you're just going to be adding a contact into the background in ProLine. It will put their contact information in there, but you won't really be able to utilize it for anything. So that you want to use this create or update project to actually create a contact and a project at the same time. So we'll select that Power Roofing. We'll go to action, and then we'll fill out. So maybe we want to use the name field as the name of the project. We'll let the location be chosen by ProLine. If there's an address being submitted, we would put that there. And then down here at the bottom, we would put in contacts, in this case, contact full name. If you only have a single name field, you want to use this contact full name. Otherwise, you would split it between the first and last name here. And then we have contact phone, contact email. And then lastly here, we have contact campaign. And this is where you're going to select what speed to lead campaign you want to run for this new lead. So in this case, we'll choose website leads. And I also want to make sure to choose the stage here. So we'll go up to stage and we'll choose the new leads stage. And so this is actually probably good to go here. If I test this step, we're going to go look inside of this ProLine account, and we're going to see that this project has been created. And so if we go back to projects, we can see that this, I believe this, yeah, this is the one that just got created. So this AJ Bradley project was created. As you can see, I've been doing other tests here. And it has, if I click on this, it has that information that just came from Zapier. And then also, if I go to view campaigns, I can see that this website leads campaigns was started. So an email is going out and a text message is going out. The other thing that I can do that's really common is if I'm putting leads in like this, is I probably am going to want to use or choose a tag. So I'm probably going to want to tag this project. So I'll tag this as website, and that way anything that comes through this lead source is tagged with the lead source. Trying to think of any other good use cases to go over here, but I think that pretty much covers like kind of the top level basics. Do you guys have questions regarding this, like use cases that we haven't gone over that you want to see how that would work? Chris, I remember you had some questions the other day about connecting ProLine to, I'm blanking on the name. It was that scheduling tool. Chris, you there? I guess he stepped away from his computer. He had a question about connecting ProLine to Zenbooker was the tool. So you can definitely connect. Another common use case would be to connect ProLine to like a Calendly or a Zenbooker. And so in those cases, what you'd probably want to do is, depending on the workflow, you might want to add in a search step here to search for. So say this was coming from, if we selected Zenbooker, I believe they have a. I thought they had a, maybe they don't, and we might have used webhooks for them. I thought they had a, spell this correctly, Zenbooker. Maybe they don't have a Zapier, but we can choose like Calendly. So if it was a new invitee in Calendly, what we probably want to do, if we wanted to always create a new project for stuff coming from Calendly, we could do that, or we could search for any existing. So we could do a ProLine search step for any existing projects. So we could search for project, and then based off the information coming from Calendly, we could see if there's an existing project and use that and update that. Or we could just always create a new project. And then lastly, we wanted that event to be added into ProLine, we could add a ProLine create or update event step. And so we can then fill out, the event type, the event date, who we want the event to be assigned to. If we want to add stuff like specific time zone information for a contact, we can, but that's like a setting inside your ProLine account that has to be enabled. And then you can actually enter, if you have, like if you're using Calendly, you can actually add an external reschedule link. So you can put the reschedule link from Calendly into ProLine, and we can use it in automations. So if you want to do any kind of reminders or anything through ProLine, you can add that reschedule link into those messages. And so, yeah, that would be kind of the general gist of how to set that up from Calendly. All right. Chris, are you back? There he is. All right. I kind of went over general, well, in this case, it was Calendly, but did you have any questions regarding specifically Zenbooker and connecting Zenbooker through Zapier? I don't know if you had looked at that at all yet.
No, not yet. But I'm going to see Kenny on site tomorrow, so I'll be digging into his Zapier. But we talked about it on the last call, and I'm like, I'll just pull it up once I get up there. But if we can copy and paste, that should make it pretty straightforward. So,
yep. Yeah, so Zapier has gotten, I've been using Zapier for years, probably close to 6 years now, and they've just gotten better and better. So they have a lot of capabilities around like exporting. So I think I can just share. So share template is what you're going to want to do, Chris. You go in here and share template. And then I don't know if you're able to export it completely. Oh, it's freaking out because the MailChimp isn't properly connected, but maybe I'm clicking on the wrong one. It's because it's not, those are not fully set up, but yeah, you would be able to just share those templates between accounts. And yeah, anything, Elizabeth, any questions? John, any questions? Elizabeth?
With Zapier, how many like credits or Zaps? Is it like based on the plans? Obviously, I'm still new, so.
Yeah. So Zapier, have you used Zapier before for other things?
Yeah.
Okay. So Zapier is expensive in general.
Sure.
But that's always why we try to be as efficient as possible in how we set up these apps. We're on like a 5,000 task plan, which is quite a lot. 5,000 covers a lot. I think their base tier plan, I think, is 750. And that most companies, unless they got a lot of zaps and a lot of activity, 750 is probably going to be enough. If you're like a small one-man show and you're using more than 750, then you probably have some inefficiencies in how those apps are set up.
We used, when we set it up, and this was before like even the ProLine thing, where we had a couple other zaps and connections. We were at maybe 2,000 a month during busy season, and that would be like contacts from one to another. So even that, it's like, it's still one of those things where it's for our business, where it's like, if you're doing anything north of $1 million bucks or whatever, like it's an inconsequential cost, kind of. So until somebody miscategorizes the transactions in QuickBooks and somebody says, why did we spend $12,000 on Zapier? And it's like, oh, that's just because I put it in the wrong bucket. Sorry.
So an outside Zapier account is required. This is not, it's not part of their ProLine subscription.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh,
So
got it. Something you said made me think that makes sense.
yeah, so we have the Zapier, we maintain this Zapier app for all that functionality back to ProLine. But yeah, each user will need to have their own Zapier account on their own Zapier plan in order to use Zapier. So we, over time, like for example, with ZenBooker, what Chris is talking about, we may eventually build a native integration with them. If we see enough people using Zapier to connect two softwares together, or software with ProLine, then that would prioritize it being made into a full integration. So that's always our goal over time. But Zapier is just what's nice about Zapier is that it just gives everybody complete freedom. If they're willing to pay the money for Zapier, then they can connect ProLine to literally anything else that's on Zapier, and or use that webhook functionality. So it is almost nothing you can't connect through Zapier, which is nice. So.
Yes, so we're on I just looked at mine right now. We're on the professional plan and it's $50 a month. But now that we've switched a few things out, we may be able to switch back into the starter plan, which is $750 to $1,500. Yeah, $1,500's $40 a month. So it's still not that bad. The thing that I've always liked about Zapier is it's your translator, where it just talks to anything that doesn't have a connection. So it's it's kind of just spread it like peanut butter across all my other software costs, and it's nothing.
Yeah,
right now
it's not bad. I think ours is like 120 a month or something for 5,000.
What besides Dope 360 are you guys? What else has a native?
So as far as direct integration, so we have the direct integration with Gmail and with Office 365 for email, and any day now we're going to be adding full Calendly sync as well through those. We're literally just waiting on Google to approve us, and they're being very particular about a lot of things. So, but as soon as that gets approved, we'll have email and calendar sync there. We have Sumo Quote for quotes if you need that extra power that Sumo Quote offers. Company Cam, and then we're actually overhauling the Company Cam right now. We're going to be having it sync so that you can pull in images into ProLine very easily. We have Roof Quote Pro, Dope 360 for the direct mail. And they're actually working on a secondary integration from their end. So it's going to be possible to do it on either end, whether directly from their platform or from ours, just depends on how people want to have it set up. And then
quick question about Dope 360. I didn't mean to cut you off. But should I reach out to Chris in regard to stopping automations with them? With ProLine, I have everything set up through ProLine, and I'm just looking for something that would kind of how you can blacklist people from receiving review emails and things like that, same sort of thing, except with Dope 360, because just some addresses are just so spread out that nobody's even going to be able to see it where some of these things take place, and in those situations, I'd just rather not waste the money on something that's not going to have any kind of ROI.
Yeah. So, as we were saying, as I was, we were talking about this the other day, with the way our integration works on our end, there's not a way, or it's very difficult to set it up that way. It gets really complex, but we just had a meeting with them 3 days ago about them setting up the integration on their end, and the one on their end should have the ability to filter based on tags. So when something comes through, if it has a certain tag in ProLine, then they're going to ignore it. In the short run, yes, reach out to Chris and ask him about if there's what is his recommendation for if something gets sent from ProLine. What's his recommendation for going in and stopping it? I feel like there's got to got to be a way to, you go in and you just be like, hey, like, actually, if within a certain time window, if you go in there and delete it or remove it, then, or there might be a way to specifically go in and they might have like a blacklist list and you can just go in there and enter the address and then nothing gets sent to that address. I would ask him if there's any short run solutions. There's just not really a good solution on our end with how our integration works right now. So, but the integration with them that they're setting on their end that they're setting up to have that capability. And then, yeah, ask for stuff in the meantime, just talk to Chris. So we have the Eagle View integration, which we're also overhauling right now, so that it pulls in measurements automatically for completed reports. And then we have Angie, and then we have our API, which is what connects to Zapier. And then we have the web leads integration, which is kind of actually a scaled back API. This is specifically for connecting with forms. So this will work for like Gravity forms, Unbounce, Contact Form 7 can use this webhook. And you just kind of configure it based on what campaign you want to start and what stage you want to put stuff in, and then it builds a webhook for you. You can put that into any other service that can send a webhook when leads come through. So this kind of saves. This was one thing we try to do to try to eliminate having to use Zapier for every company. We usually try to use this for like speed to lead when we can from people's websites. We really tried to make this work for Elementor forms. It's just they do it in a really weird way. So there's no way to make it work for Elementor forms, but it will work for a lot of other form types. And
Like
yeah,
WordPress forms.
well, so Elementor is in WordPress. So Elementor, there's so many different forms that you can use in WordPress. So it depends on what plugin you're using. Contact Form 7 is free and it's the most popular form tool for WordPress, and that it will work with that. It's a little bit of a pain to set up, and we do have a guide for it, which is right here. So we have a guide specifically for Contact Form 7 that is exactly how to configure Contact Form 7 for our webhook. So it's a little bit of a pain, but as long as you follow the steps, it's fine. And we even have some potential troubleshooting stuff here if it doesn't work the way you expect it to. So
what's the easiest one to set up?
The easiest one is probably like Gravity forms. That's a really popular one. Ninja forms too. The issue with Gravity forms in Ninja forms is that they're a little bit expensive when it comes to just being a form. You have to pay for either monthly or every year just to use the plugin, and then you have to pay extra to use the webhook functionality, I believe, for both of them. But their webhook functionality is really easy. You just sort of like drop the ProLine hook in there and you tell it what to label everything that it sends to ProLine, and you're good to go. So it's definitely the easiest is Gravity. Ninja, Gravity, Unbounce are all really easy. Unbounce isn't really a form, it's more of a landing page tool, but those are going to be the easiest. Contact Form 7 isn't hard, it's just a little bit more technical. Like you actually have to, so when you build Contact Form 7 forms, you basically do it in this like kind of special code that they have. And so you have to go in and change that and update things in their the email templates and stuff to make sure everything still works correctly. So it's a little bit more technical, but it's not super hard.
Cool. Yeah, that's straightforward.
Yeah, and it's
Hey,
free.
Jack.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question unrelated to ProLine at all, since it seems like you know a good bit about Elementor?
Let me stop the recording and then we can chat about whatever. Let's go there, Chris. Do you have any ProLine specific questions to hit before we stop recording?
No, I don't think so. I think it's pretty straightforward of essentially anything that if I can connect to like other programs potentially too, like let's say Roof Quote Pro, where if something can input data into Roof Quote Pro, it can then send it into ProLine through that same connection typically then too. So like sometimes there may be even an easier route than doing something like this if I have another. So, okay, cool. No, I'm just thinking through kind of how we had worked it in the past for a few of the situations. So no, we're good.
Cool. Perfect. All right.